You're still coming to Merv the Perv's house tonight, right? Jack asked, slouching over the handlebars of his pushbike. Noah's been keeping the eggs under his bed for weeks. He said the smell is getting pretty bad. Maybe, I replied. I have to take Will trick-or-treating first. You better not be bitching out, Jack frowned. I'm not bitching out, I lied. Vigilante justice wasn't in my nature, but unfortunately, giving in to peer pressure was. My old man caught him going through our trash yesterday. Reckons he was willing to leave it alone when it was just the photos of our houses, but now Dad said we ought to teach him a lesson. I think most of the street feels that way, Jack. Look, I'll meet up with you guys after, okay? Alright, meet us outside Noah's house, Jack said, before riding off. Merv had become the pariah of our quiet street since moving in over a year ago. At first, it was just pictures of our houses, with Merv claiming it was for historical purposes. However, tensions rose when he started taking photos of the street's occupants. You could be taking the trash out or mowing the lawn, and Merv would walk out onto his porch and snap a photo. Things reached a boiling point when he was caught rummaging through the garbage bins on collection day. Messing with Merv was a regular occurrence now that the kids on our cul-de-sac knew it would result in little to no punishment from their parents. It was never anything serious. A few flat tires or less than desirable words exchanged on site. Halloween was just another excuse to make his life harder. After my little brother Will had dragged me up and down the neighborhood, I took him home and met up with Jack and Noah. Merv's house was only a few doors down on the opposite side of the street. Slowing our pace, we waited for those still roaming the streets in search of candy to go home before hiding behind the large oak tree in Merv's front yard. It came as no surprise there weren't any decorations, nor any children approaching his door. Noah opened his backpack, and the smell of rotten eggs made me gag. Yeah, Noah laughed. Try sleeping with them under your bed. I don't think I'll ever eat eggs again. Shut up, Jack ordered in a hushed tone, and pointed. Look, over there. Merv's garage door had opened, and we clung to the side of the oak tree as he reversed down the driveway and pulled out onto the street. Without saying a word, Jack ran toward the garage door as it clunked and creaked shut. Noah and I stumbled to our feet and followed. All three of us were able to squeeze through the gap before the garage door shut. It was too dark to see anything, and the smell of eggs mixed with the scent of wood. You idiot, I yelled, my heart racing with the fear of what Merv would do to us if we were caught. Let's just take a look around, Jack said. We'll be quick. Suddenly, a loud crash came from somewhere in the darkness, causing Jack and me to jump out of our skin. Sorry, Noah called. I found the lights. The bulb came to life, and light filled the room. Woodworking equipment hung in every free space of the walls. Handsaws, power saws, planes, and sanders. Entering the house, we found the inside littered with trash, empty bottles, and containers. What the? Jack muttered, turning into the living room. Take a look at this. 3 levels of shelving had been fixed around the entire room, holding dozens of small wooden dolls. They all had different clothing, skin tones, and facial expressions. Guys, Noah called from another room. Hurry! Stepping over the trash and towards Noah's voice, we found him in the dining room past the kitchen. Next to him was a large table stretched from one end of the room to the other. Small wooden houses lay atop the table. At first I was curious, but as I got closer, a chill ran down my spine. Pictures had been taped to every space in the wall. Photos of our houses and families. They were all wrinkled and looked well used. This is our street, Noah said, the tone in his voice soft. I looked down to find Noah was right. Our houses sat in their correct places, on the street, in perfect detail. Walking around the table, I knelt down and looked into the front window of my house. Small wooden replica figures of my parents sat on the couch in the living room, staring at a tiny wooden TV. He's made figures of my parents, I said. Dude, Jack shouted. The doll even has the same shirt my mum was wearing today. I can't find myself. Am I at either of your houses? Noah asked. Realizing I hadn't seen my own doll, I looked down, and to my horror, saw the doll of my mother start to move its limbs. In jarring slow motions, it walked towards the window and closed the curtain. It moved, I said in a panic. It moved. The figure moved. Stop messing with us, Noah spat. This place is scary enough. He's not lying, Noah, Jack mumbled. Look at this. Jack pointed to the replica of Merv's house, and we peered through the side window. There in Merv's dining room, our three counterparts stood around the table. Noah's face went pale as he stared at the dolls. I'm getting out of here, I said, turning toward the door. I'd seen enough movies to know this would never end well. Hold on, let me take a picture at least, Jack said, grabbing his phone from his pocket. And I gotta unload these eggs, Noah protested. Unload them in the house, Jack ordered. By the time I heard the first egg crack against the wall, I was already halfway through the front door. When my sneakers hit the sidewalk, Merv's car pulled back into the street. As the automatic garage door clunked open, and Merv pulled into the driveway, Noah and Jack came scrambling. Merv got out of the car but quickly realized he wouldn't be able to catch them. There wasn't much fight in him. I watched from across the street as he trudged into his house and slammed the front door shut. When I got home, my parents were asleep, and though I was shaken from what I'd seen, the guilt stopped me from waking them. Yes, Merv was creepy, and it was strange what we had seen. But I didn't like the idea of trashing an old man's house just because we knew we wouldn't be punished. Eventually, I fell asleep until I was woken in the early hours by a blood-curdling scream. Joining the crowd of onlookers, I watched in horror as Jack's father ran from the house, screaming for help and holding his son. Jack's limbs had been broken and tied behind his back like a large Christmas bow. Jack's mouth was slightly ajar, and on closer inspection, the top of his phone could be seen sticking out from under his front teeth. I watched the paramedics try to dislodge it from his throat, before giving up after checking his pulse. A quiet chuckle came from behind me. Glancing over, my eyes met with Merv's, and a slight smile formed on his face. Shh, Merv mouthed, raising a finger to his lips. I froze in fear, and as if on cue, another incoherent scream echoed throughout the cul-de-sac. It was Noah's mother. My father later told me she found her son in bed, with his neck twisted so many times it snapped off the last remaining threads of flesh when she pulled his body close. Noah's head had rolled onto the carpet, leaving a trail of yellow yolk-like liquid. The smell of rotten eggs stained the house for months. Paramedics understood the loss of life now made it a crime scene, and attempted to disperse the crowd. When I told my parents about Merv, I think they believed my story about the dolls, even forwarding the information to the police. But my mother could only offer an awkward laugh when I accused Merv of magic. Potential charges of stalking and harassment had been mentioned at the dinner table. Still, there was never any talk of murder. My family, along with others on the street, moved the moment they could afford it. There's a certain amount of guilt I feel when the thought of Noah and Jack float back into my mind. My guilt stems from the wave of relief that washes over me. Relief that my friends met that gruesome fate rather than myself. Though I don't live anywhere near that street anymore, I often wonder if our dolls are still moving around under Merv's supervision, or if he simply shelved us and started anew.